Hello everyone, this is chapters 4 and 5, Screencast, part 1. The visual elements. The way I think of the principles and elements, which is what you're covering in chapters 4 and 5, are the elements are ingredients and the principles are the directions for making a recipe. So let's say baking a cake. You have to have the ingredients and you have to have the directions. So we have the elements and the principles. Okay, so the elements listed here are line, shape, mass, light, value, color, texture, and space. The elements that we perceive and respond to when we look at a work of art. So this is what you're going to be looking at when you're basically observing a piece of art. And it can be any type of art. Make sure you take a look at these video links, the video links that are attached. Most of them will be for each individual element. Let's say one for line, one for mass. Whatever it is, make sure you take a look at that, especially if you're having a little bit of a difficult time understanding it from the PowerPoint. I always think the visual and the videos kind of help. And again, cheesy types of music and all of that with the videos, I apologize, but make sure you take a look at those. Okay, so what is line? It is the path of a moving point or a straight mark with the point being a dot. So this is the basic definition you've probably gotten from any of your other classes. What's the importance of a line? Lines are one of the most basic elements of design. A line in general suggests direction and orientation. If you think about it, a blank piece of paper, until you make that mark, which is a line, it basically tells us direction. It tells us all kinds of information. It'll give us texture, all kinds of stuff. So it can organize, texturize, guide the eye, provide movement, make a statement, convey universal meanings. So you can see there's tons of stuff that deals with this and the importance of that line. There are different types of lines that artists use. A contour line. Okay, a contour line is one continuous line that outlines the inside and the outside of an object. Remember, one continuous line. It has no variation. Why do I say you need to remember this? Because you guys are going to be doing some drawings when it comes to line drawings. You'll see that in the assignments. You'll have to do some drawings for me. So when you get to that part of drawing assignment, you'll probably want to come back and look at this PowerPoint. Now, line variation is a line that is made thicker or thinner to produce two effects in dimension, which are light and shade or light and shadow. Think about weight with it too. It can be lighter or heavier. Again, you will be doing drawings using a line variation also. Now, a silhouette line are lines that are created by the works itself. So you guys are used to this. The back ends of the mud flaps on the semi-truck trailers is the outline of the female figure. That's the silhouette line. Okay, different types of lines as far as direction. Horizon lines. These are lines that are parallel to the horizon. Now, what you may not have ever heard of, but lines have feelings. And what I mean by that is they personify and make us think of certain things. So horizon lines give us the effect of restfulness, quietness, peacefulness. Vertical lines are lines that run straight up and down. They have the effect of something that is forceful, dignified, solid, and unmovable. So when I look back at the horizon lines, I think of something that is a landscape. You have that where the ground meets the sky, okay? Then with the vertical lines, I think of a soldier at attention or a flagpole, you know, standing high in the sky that's forceful, dignified, that unmovable line. Okay, diagonal lines are lines that run crossways. These have the effect or feeling of excitement, movement. Imagine a motorcycle racing around a track, the angle at which that goes, it kind of turns on its side. I think of my daughter's dog when she's running out in the yard. She's super fast and she almost looks like she's about to fall over when she's turning because she has that diagonal line to her figure. Okay, now the image that you see here is an artist by the name of Basquiat. Now why his picture is up here is because you're going to watch a video about lines and how lines have certain feelings. And you're going to see a really great portrait that he did of himself. And I just wanted that comparison because I know I throw out the name Basquiat. I would be lucky if one of you know that name in class, but he is a very famous artist. Another one of those lines are curved lines. Their effect is something that is soft, sensuous, baby-like, okay? Here is that video link where you can see about lines. Make sure you take a look at it. Really good visual showing you different types of lines and the uses and way we use them. Now shape. This is an area or plane with distinguishable boundaries. Now it can be solid or illusionary. So what do I mean by that? I mean if I draw on a white piece of paper, if I draw a red ball or a circle, that red ball is the shape, but there's also the shape that is around it. That's that illusionary part. Sometimes if you had a grouping of shapes, that space in between the, let's say a group of balls, the space in between the balls, the little triangles or whatever that is, that's making shapes also, but those are illusionary. Okay, now there are two types of shapes, the biomorphic and the geometric. The biomorphic are the organic or irregular shapes which resemble those found in nature. So very lyrical, whimsical, curves and all of those wonderful things, those are those irregular biomorphic shapes. Now, geometric shapes are those that are created by exact mathematical laws of geometry. So, you know, your square, your triangle, those types of shapes. Again, take a look at the video link, and the video link will give great visuals for this. Now, form. Form, we've already talked about in the last section with Brancusi's fish. If you remember that, form is shape that is turned into 3 dimensions. So pretty easy on that one. You've already kind of touched on it. Again, take a look at the video link. That will be good visuals and also help give a reminder. Now, mass and volume tend to be a little bit more confusing. Mass is 3-dimensional form which stands out from the space surrounding it because of different color, value, texture, those kinds of things. But when we talk about volume, volume is a shape having 3 dimensions or one which gives the illusion of solidarity. So volume can fill up a space, okay? Now color. I know you all know what color is, but here's the definition of it. It is the character of a surface that is the result of the response of vision to the wavelength of light reflected from that surface. I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. I know, that whole wah-wah. This illustration is really actually a pretty good example. Okay, we're talking about wavelengths of light, and in wavelengths of light, all the colors in the color spectrum are there. So here we see the sun, and it's beating down with its ray of light, and you have the rainbow. And there's an apple. Okay, the apple is actually all of the colors except for red. Red is the color that bounces back and we see off that surface. So the reflected color is the color that we see. Okay, so the apple is actually all the other colors, the rainbow, except for red. Can be confusing, but I think that illustration is a pretty good example. So properties of color. Here's a listing of properties of color. Hue, value, and chroma. Let's define these. Hue refers to the name of a color, one of pure colors of the color spectrum. Okay, so in other words, what am I saying is hue and color are the same thing. We'll find that a lot in art. We'll have 2 different names for the same exact thing. It can be frustrating, I understand. Value. This is a term that is developed by Alfred H. Munsell to describe the lightness and darkness of a color. So if you look on page 88, figure 419 in your text, you will see a black to white gradient scale. So what that means is how many, it only has so many boxes, but the gray tones to get to white from black, much like a paint strip. Okay, now chiaroscuro is another term that we throw in here, but chiaroscuro is strictly known as one of those terminology that we use for painting, and it's painting technique that is going from light to dark, which is value. So chiaroscuro and value are the same thing, but chiaroscuro is only used when we're talking about painting. Okay, there is a video link again there. Watch that. It's pretty good on value. Chroma, this refers to the purity of color, so the brilliance or vividness of a color. So I myself think of when we go in and we've taken photographs and we want to brighten or bring the color up. That's what you're talking about. It's kind of the saturation. You heighten it up, make things almost candy colored. Okay, so the color wheel, and hopefully most of you have probably drawn and made a color wheel. Okay, it is a method of organizing the spectral hues, and it divides all hues into primaries from which we then mix the secondaries and the tertiaries. You should be able to find a color wheel on page 90, figure 424 in your text. So how do we arrange those colors? First, we start out with the primary colors. So imagine this as drawing a color wheel with a triangle and each point being a color. So I would like you to do that. Draw a triangle, and at one point put red, one point put yellow, one point put blue. Okay, so these are theoretically the colors that can't be mixed, or that you cannot mix yourself. They're the basics of where we start at. Remember, there's not black and white in the color wheel. Now, from that, I want you to take a triangle and draw a triangle upside down from the triangle that you just did. Okay, so you're kind of making a star that is 6-pointed. Okay, on the ends of those points, I want you to do the secondary colors, and these are the colors where you mix. So you mix the red and the yellow primary and you get orange. That's your secondary. You mix the yellow and the blue together are the primaries, and you get the secondary of green. You mix the blue and the red together, and at that point I want you to draw violet. You can put purple, that's perfectly fine. Okay, now you should have a color wheel that has your primaries and your secondaries. Then from there you'll mix those colors. So that's when you mix a primary and a secondary, you get what is called a tertiary. So you get the yellow and the orange, the red orange, the red violet, the blue violet, the blue green, and the yellow green. One thing that you need to know is you're going to take a color quiz, and on that I am very particular about the order in which the colors are put on color quizzes. So in other words, the primary always comes first. Notice that the yellow, the red, and the blue are always first when it comes to the tertiary colors, okay? Now, continuing on with colors, there are complementary colors. These are colors that are opposite of one another on the color wheel. They tend to make each other seem brighter and stronger. Christmas colors, red and green, they are opposite of one another on the color wheel. Same with blue and orange and yellow and violet. I always tell students it's sort of like school team colors kind of things. Okay, I think Christopher is blue and orange. That's the one that stands out to me right now. Okay, now there is analogous colors. These are colors that are next to one another on the color wheel. So there you have the green, the yellow green, and the yellow. These are what we kind of see more in nature. It's more naturally go together. We also call analogous colors adjacent colors. Now, acid colors. These are typically jarring colors. I always think of them as kind of your neon fluorescent colors. Now, these got their name in 1960 after the psychedelic colors that were used in the artwork of the time for LSD acid trips. Now, we're going to continue in part 2 on the next slide.